They were hailed as sacred warriors, protectors of pilgrims traveling the holy paths. But what if that was only part of the truth? What if, from their very beginning, the Knights Templar weren't just guarding the faithful, but hunting for something far more mysterious? Beneath the ancient stones of Jerusalem, the Templars may have stumbled upon forgotten passageways, forbidden relics, and knowledge so profound it threatened the very core of faith and empire. And some say their journey didn't end in the Holy Land, but led back to a civilization thought to exist only in myth, a world known as Atlantis. This is Digging History, and today we uncover the Templars' hidden purpose, their secret quest for Atlantean wisdom. Welcome. In 1099, after years of brutal fighting, Christian crusaders finally seized Jerusalem in what became known as the First Crusade. Thousands had marched from across Europe, believing they were on a divine mission to reclaim and safeguard the land where Christ once walked. When the battles ended, a new movement began. Pilgrims, ordinary men, women, even children, started journeying from Europe to visit the sacred sites of the Bible. But these pilgrimages were perilous. The routes were filled with bandits, raiders, and dangers that preyed on unguarded travelers. Then, in 1119, a French nobleman named Hugues de Payens proposed something revolutionary. He gathered 8 other knights and formed a new brotherhood, not just soldiers, but monks bound by vows of poverty, chastity, and faith. They would dedicate both sword and spirit to God. They called themselves the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. Their mission? To serve God and protect his people. They established their headquarters at one of the most sacred and mysterious sites in history, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. This was no ordinary location. Centuries earlier, it was believed to be the very spot where King Solomon's temple once stood, a temple said to contain immense wisdom and sacred treasures. The knights were granted permission to live directly above these ruins, within structures that had formed part of the original temple complex. It wasn't long before people began calling them simply the Knights Templar. At first, they were only 9 men. Their goal was straightforward: to defend the pilgrims and keep the Holy Land secure. Their devotion impressed everyone. They lived humbly, followed strict discipline, and were willing to die for their faith. Soon, their fame spread throughout Europe. Kings, nobles, and even the Pope began supporting them with land, wealth, and privileges. They were exempt from taxes and could travel freely across borders. New recruits poured in from every corner of Europe, and the Templars quickly rose to become one of the most powerful and respected orders of their time. But behind their rapid rise, there lingered a mystery. Though their duty was to guard travelers, they spent surprisingly little time on the open roads. For nearly 9 years, they remained stationed in Jerusalem, rarely leaving their base atop the Temple Mount. They were quiet, disciplined, and constantly working, yet no one knew exactly what they were doing. So the question remains, what were the Templars truly doing beneath the Temple Mount? Over the centuries, a theory began to take shape, one that refuses to fade. It suggests that the Templars weren't merely protecting the Temple Mount, they were digging below it. According to this idea, the Knights believed something extraordinary was buried beneath the ruins. Some say they spent those 9 years exploring underground chambers, mapping tunnels, and excavating secret vaults, not to live near history, but to unearth it. It sounds incredible, but the evidence whispers of more. In 1867, long after the Templars had vanished from Jerusalem, a group of British archaeologists began excavations near the Temple Mount. During their work, they uncovered something astonishing: fragments of a vast tunnel system carved deep into the bedrock, passageways, chambers, and corridors hidden for centuries. According to the expedition's notes, the team also discovered several artifacts linked to the Templars: metal spurs, tools, and fragments of equipment, all dating back to the 12th century, precisely when the Templars occupied the site. While these findings don't conclusively prove that the Templars were digging, they raise compelling questions. After all, the tunnels might have existed before them. But if not, what exactly were the Templars looking for in the darkness below? The artifacts could, of course, have simply been lost, dropped by chance. But the combination of discoveries seems too deliberate to ignore. Could that really be coincidence? Some historians don't think so. They remind us that the Knights Templar were no ordinary band of fighters. They were disciplined, methodical, and exceptionally well organized. They documented everything, followed intricate rules, and constructed fortified bases all across Europe and the Middle East. If any group in history had the ability and the secrecy to conduct a covert excavation beneath the Temple Mount, it was them. The mystery only deepens as we step into the 20th century. A handful of modern researchers, including authors like P. Al-Ghayb and Louis Charpentier, claim to have uncovered signs of additional underground structures beneath the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which lies within the same Temple Mount complex. According to their theories, the very layout of the area shows traces of purposeful excavation dating back to the Templar era. Some even argued that certain tunnel passages aligned perfectly with known Crusader-era entrances. But there's a problem. None of these claims can be confirmed. Modern archaeology faces strict limits in this region. The Temple Mount remains one of the most sacred and politically sensitive places on Earth. No one today is allowed to dig deep enough to find out what truly lies beneath. And yet, when you look at all the clues together, the pattern is difficult to dismiss. The Templars were granted exclusive access to Jerusalem's holiest ground. They stayed there for nearly a decade, largely out of public view. Centuries later, tunnels were uncovered beneath that same site, tunnels containing objects from their exact time period. So, why would anyone dedicate years of secret labor to exploring beneath a temple destroyed nearly 1,000 years earlier? Many believe the Templars were in search of something priceless, something hidden, buried, and protected through time. Some say it was sacred relics, lost treasures of the faith. Others think it was something far more dangerous, knowledge that had vanished after the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 CE, long before the Templars rose to fame as one of the most powerful and mysterious brotherhoods of the Middle Ages, perhaps even before their official founding in 1119. Rumors had begun circulating among their early circles. Whispers not of gold or holy relics, but of something far older, something called Atlantis.
We found the truth.
By then, the legend of Atlantis had already echoed through the centuries. It spoke of a lost world of unmatched brilliance, advanced technologies, radiant cities, and a people whose understanding of nature and energy surpassed even modern science. While many dismissed it as myth, others believed Atlantis had truly existed, and that fragments of its legacy still remained hidden somewhere on Earth. And according to certain accounts, the Templars may have encountered those keepers of forgotten wisdom. During their travels across the East, perhaps in Constantinople, it's said they met a secretive brotherhood known as the Brothers of the East. These scholars claim to preserve teachings passed down from the survivors of Atlantis itself. So, what exactly did these mystics reveal to the Templars? They spoke of an ancient civilization that mastered the invisible forces of the planet. Atlanteans, they said, understood sound, light, and vibration, not only as tools of healing, but as sources of limitless power. Their cities were built along the Earth's natural energy lines, what we might now call ley lines. And at the heart of their knowledge was one mysterious substance above all others, a material they called mana. According to these ancient tales, mana wasn't just symbolic, it was real. A sacred white powder, said to be the result of advanced alchemical transformation, capable of unlocking the highest potential of the human mind and body. So, what could it do? Pretty much everything one could imagine. Mana was said to heal the body at the cellular level, extend life, even stop aging. It could heighten perception, awaken lucid dreams, and open awareness to higher planes of existence. Some accounts claim it allowed for telepathic communication, levitation, invisibility, and even immunity to illness by amplifying the body's natural energy field. So when the Templars heard these stories, can we really be surprised that they were drawn to them? Who wouldn't be tempted by the promise of a substance that could heal, enlighten, and transcend human limits? But here's where things become even stranger. A number of modern researchers argue that mana wasn't a myth or metaphor at all, but a real, physical element that may still exist, hidden from the world. It's something that modern science is only just beginning to rediscover. They call it monoatomic gold, a substance unlike any other. Unlike ordinary gold, whose atoms naturally bond together to form solid metal, this rare form exists as single, separate atoms, a fine, shimmering white powder that almost defies chemistry itself. And according to fringe researchers and alchemists, monoatomic gold may hold properties beyond imagination. They claim it can interact with the human body at the cellular level, accelerating regeneration and healing.
It's perfect.
Some even suggest it influences the brain, enhancing memory, sharpening focus, and expanding consciousness. In fact, modern practitioners insist that monoatomic gold can awaken the pineal gland, the mysterious third eye, a part of the brain long associated with higher awareness and spiritual perception. Here's where it gets even more intriguing. Some of these claims are no longer confined to myth or mysticism. In cutting-edge physics labs, scientists studying quantum materials have begun to observe matter that behaves in multiple states at once, substances that seem to blur the line between energy and reality itself. What ancient civilizations once described as magic or sacred energy, modern science is now calling quantum phenomena. And that raises a staggering question. What if the people of Atlantis weren't magicians or mystics, but scientists? What if what we call mana was actually a spiritual technology, a material that connected human consciousness directly to the fundamental energies of the universe? If that's true, then the Knights Templar were never mere treasure hunters. They were seekers of a lost science, knowledge that could transform humanity itself. To understand why the Templars were so obsessed, we need to step into the world where this substance supposedly came from. According to legend, Atlantis wasn't just an island. It was an entire global civilization. Its people lived in luminous crystal cities, powered by unseen energy. Their architecture followed celestial alignments. Their medicine was based on frequency and light. They could balance a person's body and mind through color, sound, and even thought. But like all great civilizations, something went terribly wrong. Some say the Atlanteans grew arrogant. Others believe they tampered with forces they didn't fully understand. Certain accounts claim they attempted to open an energy portal, a gateway between worlds, that ultimately turned against them. Whatever the truth, the result was cataclysmic. Around 11,600 years ago, Atlantis is said to have vanished beneath the ocean, swallowed by violent storms and earthquakes. Some call it divine punishment. Others, the inevitable collapse of a civilization that reached too far.
Just appeared.
Cities crumbled. Islands sank. A world that once glowed with brilliance disappeared almost overnight. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. If Atlantis truly sank somewhere west of the Pillars of Hercules, today's Strait of Gibraltar, why were the Knights Templar so focused on digging beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem? What connection could possibly exist between a lost island and one of the holiest cities on Earth? According to ancient accounts, not all Atlanteans perished when the ocean rose. Some of their wisest scholars, inventors, and spiritual masters foresaw the coming disaster. They fled, taking with them their sacred texts, their maps of the stars, and fragments of their knowledge. Some say they carried samples of mana itself, determined to preserve the light of their world, even after its fall. So where did these survivors go? Many myths say they scattered across the globe, but one destination is mentioned again and again: Egypt. Long before the pharaohs, before pyramids and dynasties, Egypt was already steeped in mystery. Ancient texts describe an age called Zep Tepi, the first time, when divine beings walked among men and shared their wisdom, teaching science, architecture, and the secrets of the heavens. But what if those gods weren't gods at all? What if they were the survivors of Atlantis, bringing fragments of their knowledge to a new land? Think about it. The oldest monuments in Egypt, the Great Pyramid, the Sphinx, display engineering precision that still defies explanation. Even today, modern scientists can't fully explain how they were built. Some of their techniques appear centuries ahead of their time. Now imagine those surviving Atlanteans arriving in the Nile Valley, quietly passing down their wisdom. Over generations, their teachings merged with local culture, rewritten, mythologized, or hidden within religious tradition. But traces of that knowledge remained, and eventually, it spread. As centuries passed, Egypt's mysteries traveled to Mesopotamia, Persia, and finally to the Holy Land itself. By the time the Templars arrived in Jerusalem in the 12th century, stories of ancient power, hidden vaults, and sacred relics were already part of the city's whispered legends. Officially, the Knights Templar were formed to safeguard Christian pilgrims on their journeys to the Holy Land. That's the version found in history books. Noble, simple, and easy to believe. But many historians and independent researchers think that was only the surface story, a convincing disguise hiding a deeper truth. Behind their public mission, it's said, was a far more secret objective. According to this theory, the Templars didn't travel to Jerusalem by coincidence. They came in search of something ancient, fragments of Atlantean wisdom. Legend says that during their years stationed in Jerusalem, the Templars spent nearly a decade tunneling beneath the Temple Mount. And if the stories are true, they didn't come back empty-handed. Deep beneath the ruins of Solomon's Temple, they reportedly unearthed relics of unimaginable power, artifacts believed to originate from the lost civilization of Atlantis. What tied all these discoveries together was a mysterious white substance known as manna, the same sacred material spoken of in ancient texts and alchemical traditions. Some accounts claim the Templars uncovered not one, but several Arks of the Covenant. In this version of history, the Ark wasn't a single relic at all, but a group of divine instruments, each with its own unique purpose. Some supposedly generated sound and radiant light. Others acted as channels of divine communication, or even weapons of energy. Certain ancient sources mention up to 6 separate arks hidden in various chambers beneath the mount, whether duplicates, segments of one larger device, or individual creations remains uncertain.
But that's impossible.
If true, this revelation would rewrite history, suggesting that what we think of as one lost relic might actually have been part of a vast and interconnected energy system. A system the Templars may have tried to restore. Another artifact tied to their discovery was the legendary Holy Grail. Today, most imagine it as a chalice, perhaps from the Last Supper. But to the Templars, it may have represented something far deeper, a vessel of energy capable of awakening the spirit, restoring health, and connecting the human soul to higher realms of existence. Then there was the Emerald Tablet, a flat slab of shimmering green stone covered in cryptic symbols. The script was unlike anything seen in Europe. Some witnesses even claimed the text appeared to change depending on who looked at it, almost as if it responded to human consciousness. The tablet supposedly contained the blueprint of creation itself, explaining how vibration, sound, and light intertwine to shape reality. Anyone who could fully grasp its message, the stories say, could unlock extraordinary abilities. And then came the Spear of Destiny, the same weapon said to have pierced Christ's side during the crucifixion. But to others, it was far older, an Atlantean relic of immense power. Legends claim it enhanced intuition, sharpened judgment, and even influenced the outcomes of wars. Yet it could only be wielded by someone pure of heart, for it was said to resonate only with truth. Some accounts even suggest the spear required mana to function at its full potential. Following these discoveries, the Templars changed. Their demeanor became more solemn, more focused, and, some say, more secretive. It was as if they had uncovered a purpose far greater than the one the world knew. The excavations beneath the Temple Mount, however, didn't just reveal ancient objects. They unearthed forbidden knowledge. Alongside relics, the Templars reportedly found texts that told a version of history very different from what the Church had taught. These writings portrayed a deeply personal connection to the divine. Jesus appeared not as a distant figure of worship, but as a teacher who showed humanity how to access the divine within. Some manuscripts even hinted at a bond between Jesus and Mary Magdalene, perhaps even a lineage. Others claimed that John the Baptist was the original bearer of this sacred wisdom, passing it down through secret initiates. These records, possibly linked to the Gnostic Gospels, the Qumran scrolls, and the Hermetic writings, described a universe filled with living light, where divinity existed within all creation. Salvation, they suggested, wasn't about obedience or fear, but awakening one's inner truth. In the 12th century, ideas like these were dangerously radical. If made public, they could have dismantled the Church's authority completely. The Church began to see the Templars not as knights, but as men who had glimpsed hidden truths, truths powerful enough to threaten centuries of control. They became known not merely as warriors, but as keepers of forbidden knowledge, guardians of a worldview that rendered the old systems fragile and obsolete. From that point onward, the Templars' fate began to shift. Among those who turned against them was King Philip IV of France, a ruler crushed by debts owed to the order, both financially and politically. King Philip feared the Templars, their growing influence, their independence, and above all, the whispers that they possessed knowledge the Church itself could neither understand nor control. This was the same Church that had once blessed them, granted them land, power, and divine protection. Then came the morning of Friday, October 13th, 1307, the day that turned their destiny. Acting with the approval of Pope Clement V, King Philip launched a coordinated assault across France. Templar knights were seized in their homes, churches, and command posts. They were accused of unspeakable crimes, of worshiping a mysterious idol called Baphomet, of denying Christ, and performing forbidden rites. Under brutal torture, many were forced to confess to things they never did. But as many historians now believe, these accusations were merely a smokescreen. The real reason ran much deeper and far more dangerous than heresy. The Templars had tapped into truths that threatened to unravel the Church's authority and shift the balance of power in Europe forever. And worse, they were said to hold Atlantean relics so powerful that no ruler could dare allow them to remain free. Such power was intolerable. Overnight, the very Church that had once crowned them as holy warriors branded them as heretics. From protectors of the faith, they became fugitives of it. But it seems the Templars had seen this coming. Just days before the arrests, their greatest treasures vanished. Gold, sacred artifacts, scrolls covered in strange symbols, and manuscripts filled with complex diagrams. A fleet of ships anchored at La Rochelle set sail under the cover of darkness and disappeared without a trace. Even as their empire crumbled, the final act of their story was anything but silent. On March 18th, 1314, the last Grand Master of the Knights Templar, Jacques de Molay, was led through the streets of Paris to be burned at the stake. After years of imprisonment and torture, he faced his end with defiance. Before the flames rose, he turned toward the gathered crowd and issued one final declaration. He condemned King Philip IV and Pope Clement V, the very men who destroyed the order, calling upon them to appear before God's judgment within the year. What happened next stunned Europe. Pope Clement V died barely a month later, in April 1314. King Philip followed before the year's end, in November. Both deaths were abrupt, and to many, unnervingly coincidental. Was it merely fate, or the fulfillment of de Molay's curse, empowered by the hidden knowledge the Templars had unearthed centuries before? The order may have fallen, but their legacy did not vanish. It simply changed shape. In the years that followed, echoes of the Templars resurfaced under new names. In Portugal, King Dinis shielded the surviving knights, reorganizing them as the Order of Christ, a new brotherhood loyal to the crown. But in truth, it was the same order, operating under a different banner. Their emblem changed, but their purpose remained intact. Some of their members would later assist explorers like Vasco da Gama and Prince Henry the Navigator, journeys that, some suggest, weren't just about discovering new worlds, but rediscovering lost Atlantean knowledge. Further north, in Scotland, whispers connected the Templars to the emerging Freemasons. These builders, architects, and thinkers seemed to encode secret teachings into stone, geometric patterns, celestial alignments, and sacred proportions. One famous example, Rosslyn Chapel, is filled with carvings of plants native to the Americas, sculpted decades before Columbus set sail. Then came the Rosicrucians, a mysterious brotherhood of mystics and alchemists whose writings spoke of hidden energy, the transformation of the soul, and the unity of all things. Their symbol, a rose upon a cross, echoed the Templars' ideals, the fusion of spirit and matter, of science and divinity. They taught that enlightenment couldn't be found in temples or books, but within one's own consciousness. All three groups, the Order of Christ, the Freemasons, and the Rosicrucians, shared one thing: a devotion to preserving sacred knowledge. Knowledge that bridged the worlds of science, energy, and spirituality. The very same wisdom the Templars had once protected. The names changed, the symbols evolved, but the mission endured: to guard the truth, to keep it from falling into the wrong hands, and perhaps, one day, to reveal it again. If you enjoyed this journey, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Keep your mind open, and until we meet again,